Coming up on today's episode of Airborne Unlimited, Flight Safety Studies ADS-B benefits, NavWorks combines an ADS-B price break with the FAA rebate, Alpha International calls for Canadian crew duty time regulation changes. I'm Bree Cross. It's June 24th, 2016, and this is Airborne Unlimited. Flight Safety Foundation has released a study, Benefits Analysis of Space-Based ADS-B, investigating the application of ADS-B networks to meet the predicted safety challenges of air traffic growth over the next 20 years. The study also assesses how space-based ADS-B can enhance the world's aviation network by introducing a near real-time flight surveillance capability that provides 100% global coverage. Conducted over several months, the study identifies immediate, midterm, and long-term safety benefits of space-based ADS-B and the integral role it can play in meeting both existing and future challenges facing the aviation industry. The study cited the potential for numerous improvements regarding navigation and air traffic control of aircraft on oceanic crossings. One of the advantages is the potential for reduced separation standards to allow more traffic sharing the same airspace. They forecast that pilot workload can be reduced when traveling in airspace with limited air traffic control capabilities. The report stated in part, quote, "The ability to provide near real-time global surveillance is a game changer for the aviation industry." As the 2020 mandate for ADS-B out capabilities continues to edge closer, NavWorks has announced a temporary price reduction on its ADS-600B, which provides ADS-B out and in capabilities. The ADS-600B is being made available with a $200 price reduction effective immediately. The ADS-B600B includes a WAAS GPS plus compatibility with existing transponder and antenna installations. The company says that by combining the $200 price reduction with the recently announced FAA rebate of $500, the equipment cost is under $1,300. Their offer of the price reduction is good through July 31st. After the break, Alpha says 4 years is too long.
Redbird is quickly becoming the industry standard for flight training. Since Redbird introduced its revolutionary FMX in 2007, colleges, universities, and flight training operations around the world have integrated Redbird products into their curriculum. It's time to discover what Redbird can do for you. Join the migration.
There's a difference between charting a steady course and pushing for the ceiling. And for nearly a century, Hartzell Propeller has been defining that difference. It's in our passion for engineering and research and our dedication to testing the limits of performance. We are built on honor. We are Hartzell Propeller.
Welcome back. If you would like to be a supporter of Airborne Unlimited, send an email to jim@aero-news.net. The Airline Pilots Association International has called on Transport Canada to revise their recently announced recommendations for the implementation timeline of new flight and duty time regulations to no more than 1 year for all professional pilots in Canada. ALPA expressed concerns after the country's Transportation Regulatory Agency announced regulations on managing flight crew fatigue, in which timelines were established that extended for as long as 4 years, depending on the carrier's specific operation. Captain Dan Adamus, ALPA Canada board president, said in part, quote, "Updating flight time and duty time and minimum rest requirements has been one of the most important aviation safety initiatives for flight crews in Canada, and these new rules are long overdue. But it is crucial that there be a single, timely implementation process for all Canadian carriers." Captain Adamus points out that it has been 6 years since the working group was established, and during that time, other countries throughout the world have updated the regulations regarding flight crew duty regulations. He added, quote, "We cannot continue to let Canada fall behind." It's Friday, and that means that it's time for ANN CEO and Editor-in-Chief Jim Campbell to check in with his weekly barnstorming commentary. When it comes to naming people who love every aspect of aviation, our own Jim Campbell runs at the top of that list. However, today, Jim is asking the question, does aviation need a better business bureau? Here is this week's barnstorming.
Thanks, Bree, and hi, folks. The last couple of months has been kind of interesting in that above and beyond the small scandals that happen to any industry, we had kind of a bigger one, and it's still ongoing. We're talking about Icon Aircraft. But Icon is the latest in a number of occasionally disastrous stories that have befallen this industry. And whether it's a Mini 500 or whether it's BD from years ago, which this industry is still affected by and still feeling, or any one of a number of scenarios in which things didn't turn out well and somebody should have spoken up, well, let's face it, this industry kind of needs a little bit of help. So I'd like to suggest an idea. Out in the real world, because the federal government and state and local officials are not doing the job they used to when it comes to consumer protection mechanisms, even with consumer protection organizations on the civil, state, and federal level, well, there's a Better Business Bureau. And Better Business Bureaus aren't perfect, but they're kind of the industry consensus standard for consumer complaint. And they have a tendency to work amazingly well in some circumstances, while not so in others. Aviation needs a Better Business Bureau. And whether an association or a group of associations or an independent group comes up to take over this, I think it's high time we do this. Aviation journalism does not, by and large, protect this industry. It's all about cashing the next advertiser check. And we've seen time and time again that this stuff keeps going on. And while they did a couple of stories about Icon, they're still swallowing a lot of the same guff that Icon is putting out. And as I said, that's just one of many stories. And we get a lot of smaller stories where somebody credible, somebody at the nexus of an effort to protect this industry could have done a lot of good. Yes, a Better Business Bureau. So let me suggest this. Aviation needs a Better Business Bureau. Aviation needs to find a way to take care of its own. Aviation needs to find a way to project an attitude of concern, of credibility, and of quality on behalf of the whole industry. A Better Business Bureau can say, we meet a minimum applicable standard, we're trying to be better, we care about our own, and we care about you. It's a great message to send. It needs to be done. We've got a number of projects we're going to be talking about soon, including the reinvigoration of our Aviation Transformation Conference idea. And while we're going to be talking about innovation and disruptive elements and technological issues and so forth, I think the social issues of us taking care of our own needs to be first and foremost and prominent in all these things. What do you think? Can aviation field a Better Business Bureau? Can it be credible? Can it produce a quality output? And can it be an instrument for change that will help protect all current and future aviators as we go forward? It's a great idea if we can make it work. For the Aero News Network, Airborne, and Aero TV, I'm Jim Campbell, trying to see if we can protect our fellow aviators one flyer at a time.
After these messages, Airbus defends the gearbox on their Super Puma.
Concorde's recombinant gas RG series sealed battery technology produces a high-performance battery with the advantages of being pre-tested and fully charged at the factory. Find out more about Concorde's entire line of batteries at www.concordebattery.com. Concorde, the heart of your aircraft.
Sandia introduces the new SAI 340 Quattro TSO'd airspeed, attitude, altitude, and slip. With integral backup battery, safety never looked so good. See it now at www.sandia.aero.
Welcome back. With so much news coming out of the aviation industry, we're summarizing some other interesting stories in a brief segment we call Around the Patch. Airbus Helicopters is defending the main rotor gearbox on its Super Puma helicopters after accident investigators declined to rule it out as a potential cause of a fatal accident in April. The aircraft crashed after the main rotor separated from the aircraft in flight. EAA announced that the aircraft of Operation Desert Storm and Desert Shield will be on display at AirVenture 2016. The 25-year commemoration will feature many of the aircraft that were highlighted in the 1991 EAA Fly-In Convention. It's been announced that FedEx is set to acquire 6 Boeing 767 freighters as part of a fleet modernization effort. The aircraft, valued at $1.2 billion at list prices, will be delivered to the delivery company in 2019 and 2020. While the Solar Impulse 2 was flying across the Atlantic, pilot Bertrand Piccard joined with Andre Borschberg to announce their intention to create the International Committee of Clean Technologies. The committee is intended to regroup the main global actors in the field of clean technologies. Palm Beach County in Florida approved a tax exemption of up to $128,575 over a 3-year period and an economic development cash incentive of $18,200 for Sikorsky Aircraft. The incentive allows Sikorsky to expand a 33,000 square foot addition to the company's facility. Well, that's the trip around the patch. Now let's move on to the rest of the news. An organization named the Citizens Against Government Waste, referred to as the CAGW, has named Department of Homeland Security Secretary Jeh Johnson its June Porker of the Month. The organization cited the numerous failures of the TSA to operate efficiently, and these failures have been highly documented on public media over the last few months. They mentioned that his initial response to the problem was to simply tell passengers to contemplate increased wait times as you travel. Their citation for the award claimed that Secretary Johnson and TSA officials not only blamed passengers for the delays, but they also used the tired old bureaucratic excuse that a lack of funding or resources is causing the problem. The CAGW organization statement goes on to address numerous issues, TSA inefficiencies and failures, and concludes with the following: for bringing America's air travel to a screeching halt, failing to solve the problem, and using a bureaucratic cop-out, CAGW named Secretary Jeh Johnson its June Porker of the Month. Well, that's our program for today. Remember to get comprehensive real-time 24/7 coverage of the latest aviation and aerospace stories anytime at aero-news.net. Remember that Airborne Unlimited is streamed daily Monday through Friday with additional breaking news bulletins for important stories that fall outside of our normal deadlines. Please join us and a growing roster of over 100 outstanding industry associations and organizations every weekday for the best in aviation and aerospace news from the staff of the Aero News Network, the aviation world's most comprehensive news and information resource. Have a great weekend. We will see you Monday.